What we're going to be doing is adding and subtracting rationals, but this time they do not have a common denominator. So what we need to do is we need to find the common denominator. Now the common denominator is going to be the product of the two denominators, meaning that our first one is x and our second one is x plus 2. So our common denominator is going to be x plus 2. Now, after we find the common denominator, what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of the denominators and we're going to multiply it by what it's missing with the common denominator. So in our first case, this is an x. Our common denominator is an x plus 2. So we multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 2. Our second one has an x plus 2. What it's missing is an x. So we multiply the top and the bottom by an x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times x is 5x. Now we add the like terms. 4x plus 5x is 9x. And then we have the plus 8. Now, the other thing that we're going to add to this is we're going to find the excluded value. It's been a little while since we've done excluded values. So just in case you forgot, excluded value is what gives us 0 for the denominator. So here we have a monomial, so that would be 0. And here, what would give us a 0 would be a negative 2, because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So our two excluded values are 0 and negative 2. Now looking at the second one, our denominator is 3x and x minus 5. So it's the product of the two. So 3x, x minus 5. And then we have 3x, x minus 5. Now that right there is our common denominator. So we're going to take each of our denominators and we're going to multiply it by what it's missing. This has a 3x. It's missing an x minus 5. So we multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 5. This has an x minus 5. It's missing a 3x, so we multiply the top and the bottom by 3x. X times 6 is 6x. Negative 5 times 6 is negative 30. 2 times 3x is 6x. So when we subtract this, we have 6x minus 6x, which that means it cancels. And then we have the negative 30. So we have negative 30 on top, we have 3x, and we have an x minus 5. That right there would be us subtracting the two fractions. Now our excluded value, we're looking at the denominator, and we're trying to figure out what gives us 0 for the denominator. Here we have a monomial again, so that would be 0. X minus 5, a 5 would give us a 0. For the next one, we have a 5x and an x plus 8. So that means our common denominator would be 5x times x plus 8. We have a 5x, and then we have an x plus 8. So the first one, we're multiplying by x plus 8. And for the second one, we're multiplying it by 5x. X times 1 is 1x. 8 times 1 is 8. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. So we have 5x squared minus 14x, because we have a 1x and a negative 15x. And then we have plus 8. In the denominator, we have a 5x and an x plus 8. This right here is our answer. Now we're going to find our excluded values. For our excluded values, once again, it's what gives us 0 in the denominator. We have a monomial, so that, of course, means it's 0. And then x plus 8, if we plug in a negative 8, it is equal to 0 in the denominator. Okay, pause the video. Try those next 3 on your own. So looking at letter D, once again, what we're trying to do is find a common denominator, and we're going to take the product of the two denominators. So we have an x plus 4, and we have an x minus 1. So for the first one, we're going to multiply it by x minus 1 because it's missing an x minus 1. For the second one, we're going to multiply it by an x plus 4. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. Our common denominator is x plus 4 and x minus 1. 7x minus 2x is 5x. Negative 7 minus 8 is negative 15. Now we see that they have a 5 in common, so we can factor out a 5, and we get an x minus 3. But when we notice it, we see that nothing can cancel, so we would just keep it as the x plus 4 and the x minus 1 with the 5x minus 3 on top. Now for the excluded value, once again, it's what gives us 0 in the denominator, so x cannot equal. The first one would be a negative 4, and the second one would be a 1. Now for letter E, we're looking for a common denominator. We have an x minus 3 and an x plus 3. So we multiply this by an x plus 3. And this one we multiply by the x minus 3. So our common denominator is x plus 3 and x minus 3. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12. 8 times x is 8x. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 4x plus 8x is 12x. 12 plus a negative 24 is a negative 12. Once again, our denominators are the same, so we keep them the same, x plus 3 and x minus 3. We see they have a 12 in common, so we factor out a 12, and we get an x minus 1. Still, we see nothing cancels, so we just leave it, x plus 3 and x minus 3. Once again, excluded values, we're trying to figure out what gives us 0 for the denominator. And when we're looking at this, x cannot equal negative 3 and 3. And for our last one, we're looking to see what our common denominator is. Once again, it's the product of the two. So this has an x minus 6. This has a 2x plus 1. So our common denominator is x minus 6 and 2x plus 1. What that means is that we're going to multiply the first one by a 2x plus 1. And then for the second one, we're going to multiply it by an x minus 6. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times 1 is x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 6 is negative 18. I'm going to look for my like terms. So I have a 2x squared. I have an x plus a 3x, which is a 4x. And then I have a negative 18. For the denominator, x minus 6 and 2x plus 1. I see that all the numerators all have a 2 in common, so I factor out a 2, x squared plus 2x minus 9. And then in my denominator, x minus 6 and 2x plus 1. When I'm looking at my excluded value, so x cannot equal 6, and this next one is negative 1/2. So how we get the negative 1/2, if you can't see it, what it is a 2x plus 1, and we set it equals 0. So when we subtract the 1, we get a negative 1. And then when we divide it by 2, what we get is a negative 1/2. So that's how we're getting the negative 1/2 right here.